In recent years, Bishop T.D. Jakes has repeatedly appeared at the center of viral online narratives that blend real events, speculation, and outright misinformation. One of the most widely circulated video stories portrays a dramatic downfall involving legal trouble, public scandal, and even imprisonment, despite there being no verified evidence supporting such claims. These narratives typically spread through short-form videos, edited compilations, and sensational voiceovers designed to maximize engagement rather than accuracy. In reality, much of what circulates online about high-profile public figures often begins with fragments of truth, such as past public appearances, business relationships, or unrelated legal filings, before being reshaped into dramatic storytelling. The result is a digital environment where audiences are frequently presented with emotionally charged interpretations that blur the line between fact and fiction. In this case, discussions around Bishop Jakes became entangled with broader internet conversations involving celebrities, lawsuits, and conspiracy theories. The speed of social media amplification means that even minor references can evolve into full narratives within hours. This section of the story is less about verified events and more about how modern misinformation ecosystems operate, turning ambiguity into spectacle and curiosity into viral content that spreads faster than corrections can catch up. Early life, family foundations, and formative struggles. The real biography of T.D. Jakes begins in South Charleston, West Virginia, where he was born into a working-class household that valued discipline, education, and faith. His father worked in janitorial services while his mother served as an educator, shaping a home environment centered on responsibility and resilience. From an early age, Jakes was known for his intense curiosity and early interest in preaching, often practicing sermons as a child. These formative experiences earned him a reputation among peers as someone deeply engaged with faith even before adulthood. However, his upbringing was not without hardship. His father's serious illness during Jakes' youth placed emotional and financial strain on the family, forcing him to confront mortality and responsibility early in life. As a teenager, he faced academic challenges and social obstacles, including speech difficulties that others mistakenly interpreted as limitations on his future potential. Despite these setbacks, he persisted through alternative educational pathways, eventually continuing his studies while balancing work and family responsibilities. These early struggles are often cited in biographical accounts as foundational to his later communication style, direct, emotional, and deeply focused on perseverance through adversity. The beginning of ministry and the first congregation. The early ministry of T.D. Jakes began in modest circumstances, far removed from the large-scale platforms he would later command. In the early 1980s, he started preaching in small settings, eventually establishing a storefront congregation in West Virginia. The church began with only a handful of members, reflecting the humble origins common to many independent ministries. During this period, Jakes balanced multiple jobs to support both his family and his growing religious work, demonstrating the financial instability often associated with early pastoral leadership. These years were marked by persistence rather than rapid success. Attendance fluctuated, resources were limited, and growth required constant travel and outreach efforts. Nevertheless, his preaching style, emotional, narrative-driven, and focused on personal transformation, began to attract attention. Over time, word-of-mouth expansion allowed his congregation to slowly increase in size. This stage of his life is often described as foundational because it established the core themes that would define his later ministry: resilience, restoration, and empowerment through faith. The early church years were less about fame and more about survival, community building, and the gradual development of a recognizable spiritual voice. Expansion to Dallas and the rise of a megachurch era. A major turning point in the trajectory of T.D. Jakes came when he relocated his ministry to Dallas, Texas, during the 1990s. This move marked the transition from a regional pastor to a national religious figure. The establishment of the Potter's House represented not only a physical relocation, but also a structural transformation, as the ministry expanded in scale, organization, and outreach. The church quickly grew into a large congregation, eventually attracting tens of thousands of members. The Dallas expansion also coincided with increased media visibility. Television broadcasts, published sermons, and speaking engagements introduced his teachings to broader audiences across the United States and internationally. His messages often focused on emotional healing, personal growth, and overcoming adversity, resonating with diverse audiences beyond traditional church settings. Over time, the Potter's House became recognized as one of the most influential megachurches in the country, with extensive community programs and global outreach initiatives. This phase established Jakes as a prominent voice in modern evangelical Christianity and positioned him as a cultural figure as well as a religious leader. Public influence, media presence, and cultural recognition. As the ministry of T.D. Jakes expanded, so did his influence beyond the pulpit. He became a recognizable figure in media, literature, and public discourse, authoring numerous books and participating in conferences, interviews, and leadership forums. His communication style, often blending storytelling with motivational themes, allowed him to connect with audiences across religious and non-religious contexts. Over time, he was invited to speak at high-profile events and engage with public figures in politics, entertainment, and business. This visibility contributed to his broader cultural presence, positioning him not only as a pastor but also as a public intellectual and motivational speaker. His work extended into film and media production, further diversifying his reach. However, increased visibility also meant increased scrutiny, as public figures with large platforms often become subjects of both admiration and criticism. In the digital age, this scrutiny is amplified by social media, where narratives can be reshaped rapidly. As his influence grew, so did the complexity of how his image was interpreted online, setting the stage for future controversies and misinformation cycles. The rise of online rumors and digital misinformation waves. In recent years, discussions involving T.D. Jakes have increasingly intersected with the broader phenomenon of internet misinformation. Viral videos began circulating that combined unrelated clips, speculative commentary, and artificial intelligence-generated content to create dramatic narratives. These videos often implied legal troubles or personal misconduct without providing verified evidence or credible sourcing. Instead, they relied on emotional storytelling techniques designed to encourage sharing and engagement. The rapid spread of such content reflects a larger issue in the digital ecosystem: the ease with which manipulated media can appear authentic to viewers. Deepfake technology, edited footage, and algorithm-driven recommendation systems all contribute to the amplification of misleading narratives. In many cases, once a story gains traction, it becomes difficult to reverse public perception, even when corrections are issued. This environment has made public figures particularly vulnerable to reputational distortion, as fragmented information can quickly evolve into widely accepted but inaccurate, quote, internet truths. Questions work then. Love statements and clarifications. Some online narratives surrounding T.D. Jakes have referenced legal documents or unrelated lawsuits involving other individuals, which are then loosely connected to him through speculation. In reality, public records and official statements have not established him as a defendant or central figure in any criminal proceedings related to the claims circulating in viral content. Where his name has appeared in legal discussions, it has typically been in passing or in contexts unrelated to wrongdoing. Representatives and public statements have consistently rejected defamatory or unverified allegations, emphasizing the importance of distinguishing between association and accusation. This distinction is critical in legal and journalistic standards, where inclusion of a name in a document does not automatically imply culpability. The spread of misinformation often ignores these distinctions, leading audiences to draw conclusions unsupported by evidence. As a result, clarification efforts have focused on correcting misinterpretations and addressing the misuse of partial information in online narratives. Public response, defense, and reputation management. In response to viral misinformation, T.D. Jakes has addressed rumors publicly in sermons, interviews, and official statements. His approach has generally emphasized dismissing unverified claims rather than engaging with every individual allegation in detail. This strategy reflects a broader communication philosophy often used by public figures facing widespread online speculation, acknowledging misinformation without amplifying it unnecessarily. Supporters have pointed to these responses as consistent with his long-standing public communication style, which often blends personal reflection with broader spiritual messaging. Meanwhile, critics and online commentators have interpreted some statements differently, illustrating how public messaging can be received in multiple ways depending on audience perspective. In parallel, legal efforts targeting defamatory content online have been reported, focusing on platforms hosting fabricated or manipulated material. These actions highlight the increasing challenge public figures face in controlling narrative accuracy in a decentralized media environment. Health emergency, public concern, and recovery. A significant real-world event involving T.D. Jakes occurred when he experienced a medical emergency during a public sermon. The incident, captured on livestream, showed him becoming unwell on stage and requiring immediate medical attention. This moment prompted widespread concern and global attention as viewers witnessed a sudden and unexpected health crisis in real time. He was subsequently treated in a hospital setting and later provided updates about undergoing emergency medical procedures. Following recovery, he spoke publicly about the experience, describing it as life-threatening and transformative. Later disclosures indicated that the incident involved serious cardiac complications requiring urgent intervention. His return to public life was gradual, and he eventually resumed speaking engagements. This episode became a turning point in public perception, shifting attention from online controversy to health and longevity concerns. It also reinforced the vulnerability of even highly visible public figures, whose personal health events can become widely shared global moments due to live streaming and digital media coverage. Leadership transition and church succession. Following his recovery, T.D. Jakes announced a transition in leadership at the Potter's House, signaling a new chapter for the ministry. Rather than maintaining full-time senior pastoral duties, he began stepping back from day-to-day leadership responsibilities. The succession plan involved trusted family members and longtime ministry leaders who had already been involved in church operations behind the scenes. This transition was framed as a continuation rather than an ending, emphasizing institutional stability and long-term planning. Large congregational services marked the formal leadership handover, with ceremonial acknowledgments of his decades-long role in building and guiding the church. The shift reflected a broader trend among long-standing religious leaders who eventually transitioned leadership to ensure continuity and sustainability. For many followers, this moment represented both change and legacy preservation, as the institution moved into a new phase while retaining its foundational identity. Reflection on legacy, media narratives, and digital reality. The broader story surrounding T.D. Jakes illustrates how modern media ecosystems shape public perception of influential figures. In an era where viral content spreads faster than verified reporting, narratives can quickly become distorted, combining fact, speculation, and artificial media into persuasive but unreliable stories. This environment makes it increasingly difficult for audiences to distinguish between legitimate developments and manufactured controversy. At the same time, his long career reflects themes of persistence, institutional growth, and adaptation to changing cultural landscapes. Whether viewed through the lens of ministry, media influence, or public scrutiny, his trajectory demonstrates how leadership figures can become focal points for both inspiration and misinformation. Ultimately, the digital age has transformed biography itself into a contested space, where legacy is shaped not only by real-world actions but also by the stories constructed around them.